Sunday Brunch with Cassie. It's breakfast, but you don't have to get up early.
Maidstone Radio.
This is Cassie on Sunday Brunch, and I've got Matt in the studio with me.
Hello.
Yes, it's working. Brilliant. Excellent. It's always reassuring when things work. How are you doing?
Doing great, thanks. Yeah.
Brilliant. We're going to have some questions for you after the break. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. I will not mumble as much, I swear.
Okay, great. So yeah, do stay tuned for that. After the break, we've got Orwellian by Manic Street Preachers. This is Cassie on your Sunday Brunch show. We've got Matt in the studio from Eddsworld. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Hello again. How does it feel to be the ruler of everything?
It's pretty good. Yeah.
For those of you who are not familiar with Eddsworld, that was the one line that I contributed to one of the.
Yeah, Cassie had a lovely bit part as a BBC presenter.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame.
There's much more you're talented about. There's a better way of phrasing that. Talented about? No.
I don't know. Let's carry on. So, is this your first time back in Maidstone for like 10 years?
No, actually, I've got a couple of friends down here outside of yourself, who I visit every now and then. I see them at various conventions, because obviously we do conventions with Eddsworld. But I come down, have a cup of tea, or have a jacket potato and watch some films every now and then. They're actually around the corner from here.
That's very specific.
It's Dan and Lucy, who I used to work at the fruit and veg shop with.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
We remain good friends.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yes. So, as I've told you, I'm not very good with interviews, so I thought I would bring in a friend and hope it goes well.
That's all right.
So for the listeners who haven't seen or heard of Eddsworld before, can you give us a tantalising synopsis?
So, the way I've always described it, or we've all variously described it, is it's about three friends. They're all morons, and they go on adventures despite just kind of wanting to stay at home. Adventures happen around them and to them. They don't seek them out, but they're all idiots.
Yeah, I'd say that's a good synopsis, actually. Yeah. It's a really good show, and I remember Ed was working on it when we were at university, various episodes.
One of the most popular ones actually was recorded at the university. We've got a little behind the scenes video somewhere online. I was recording where we're pouring water over his face because he wanted to make it sound like he's being flooded with like a huge gallon jug of cola. He got very wet. He had a towel around his neck and everything, and the microphone was really close up, and we were just pouring it from a great height into his mouth.
I remember that. It was saying delicious. It's great. It's come a long way since the beginnings on Newgrounds. I used to have one of those DVDs that you used to sell at the comic convention.
Really?
Yeah. It was actually my younger brother who claimed ownership of it, but it had some of the early bits and pieces. And Eddsworld Beyond's looking really good so far.
Thank you.
You've had Beaster Bunny.
Yes, so Beaster Bunny.
How does fans respond after so long of not having?
Well, I made a couple of statements at various Comic-Cons. A couple of people were asking me about it, and I was very candid at the time, saying, I want to do things. One of them I want to do is called Beaster Bunny. It's about, a big monster rabbit, and that slowly leaked online, and people were talking about that, but it was pretty quiet. Generally speaking, what we saw previously is that the more people know what's going on, the bigger the pressure becomes, to the point that we had a couple of animators quit. It's like, I can't deal with this. Everyone's asking me all the time about it. So the way we got around it was we gave all our artists that we were working with NDAs, so they physically can't talk about it, so that takes the stress away. And then we just kind of got on with it in the background. We didn't tell anyone we were doing anything. We didn't give anyone a final date, because when I did do dates to begin with, they were like, this is not done by here, this is not done by then. So when we did the first short back last year, it was very surprising. We had a lot of comments going, it's back. It's like, just when we had the worst year ever, something good came out. It's very nice to hear. But generally speaking, overall, we've had a pretty good response. It's really nice to see.
And you're working quite closely with Ed's family as well, aren't you? I know his younger brother's doing the voice of Ed now.
Yeah, that's right. We picked George to be the voice, way back, 2016 when we took over from the previous team, we were thinking we need a voice for Ed. We know Tim's stepping away, and we were thinking, oh, George, his brother, natural, they have a very similar cadence and everything else. Be nice to keep it in the family. And I initially sent him this thing going, why don't you try and mimic this or try and give your version of this? And then I think maybe a week goes by and I sent him another email back going, you know what, don't bother. You're Ed. It's silly for me to even audition you. It's you. It makes no sense to audition you. It's like, what if I can't do it? It's like, well, Ed couldn't do it at all. He was a terrible voice actor. But he got better. So that's the idea.
In that way, he was the character, so it worked, didn't it? And that's pretty much what happened in that, voice acting short you did. Not so short, but like, the cartoon. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, you've got the part.
Yeah, it was a no-brainer. And what we loved the idea of was going, well, what if from that moment, Ed just goes, yeah, sounds good. So his voice immediately starts from that point. We had something really cheesy, initially, and we're like, oh God. And we all groaned when we heard it, and we was like, Cause the final line is, yeah, it just sounds good to me, you know, yeah, he's fine, whatever. But the first version we had was, sounds good to me. And it was very like, cringy and like, heartwarming, and it just sounded terrible.
Sitcom-y kind of.
Yeah. But, the family is very, very much involved. I mean, to be honest about it, Sue, his mum, Ed's mum, well, all their mums really, she owns Eddsworld now. She's basically the owner of it. And I just help her do everything. Like, I don't think there's a day that goes by where I don't fill her in with some new bits and pieces that's going on. We don't do anything without her say so. She wants to shut it down, we shut it down, but we're all going ahead, and kind of going under her guidance. And I'm giving her as much context and help as possible. And
that's one of the really nice things about it, I think. And there's still some charity work going on.
Yeah. So, there's a holiday home, I want to say in Dorset. I'm going to get it wrong. It's lovingly called Ed's Place, that Sue set up. And it works with what it was previously called Click Sergeant, and I think they've recently changed their name, to Young Cancer Trust, something like that. Sorry, I apologise.
I should probably put it in context.
It literally changed in the last week, and they sent out a whole notice board about it.
I should probably put it in context for people who haven't seen Eddsworld before, yeah. But Ed, created the show, what age was quite young?
Sort of like comics when he was 10, and the show probably picked up when he was around 13 in terms of the animation.
And then, sadly, he had leukemia.
Acute, lymphatic, leukemia.
And, how long has it been now?
It's, 9 years and a bit, since he passed away. He passed away in, 2012. And it really caught us off guard. I mean, what really caught us off more than anything was, it wasn't the cancer. He had a bacterial infection, and couldn't shirk it, went into cardiac arrest, and then just, he had a few of them, and he just didn't come back for that one. And it was, pulled the rug out from all of us.
But it was his wish that the show should continue.
Yeah, he had a conversation privately with his mother, which is again why we work so closely with Sue about it all. And in a private conversation, which I know I'm going to make public, but I've said this before to a few people. It was his wish that if something did happen, he would really like it to continue. When you say something continues, though, sometimes you just go, it continues, and no one thinks of an actual end date. I was like, so Sue still wants it to continue, and I'm helping her do that. So beyond Eddsworld Legacy, which was a project run by Tom Ridgewell, who's also previously a voice of one of the major characters, and a very close friend of Ed. He ran that project for 4 years with a Kickstarter, and the fans got behind it, and it was one of those moments where everyone got really into it, and we were all very pumped, and we used all this kind of energy and sorrow that we had and put all the energy into something positive. But it was very draining, not least of all, I'm sure, for Tom. But he did an incredible job. Honestly, he did the absolute best he could with a bad situation, and I think he smashed it, honestly.
Yeah.
And his choice to step away was, I think it was the right thing for him to do. And I respect that.
But I'm sure people are really pleased to see that it's returning though. I mean, like, you keep retaining a lot of the old fans? Do you get new ones? Do you have an idea of?
We have a couple of the old fan base who talk about it, and we have a couple of people who are, very much in the Eddsworld Legacy camp, and people that grew up watching those items. But it is always going to be a younger skewing show, so we'll always be getting new fans. So there'll be some fans that have never really seen Ed stuff, and people that have only watched the Legacy stuff, and some people that are so into Ed's old stuff who will be much older skewing fans watching it now, and also people that have just gotten into it in the last year, which is always interesting to see the new fans' reactions, because I almost feel that that's a little bit more critical, because it's like, are we still relevant? Are we still cool? Because this is the first time they're seeing it, so we have to make an impression.
We're still cool.
Are we cool? Please like us.
Yeah, please do.
We do the dabs and stuff.
Oh, the dabs.
I don't think that's even in anymore.
Do you know what I love to do now is, I go, oh, are you guys on the TikTok? I love to add the in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, I'm one of those old people on TikTok.
But
anyway.
Again, for that reason, we don't put any pop culture references. We never have. Well, not ones that are basically fleeting. No memes, no things that are gonna basically be gone by tomorrow. So we try and keep it as openly pop culture free as possible, but we put cult pop culture items in, like peppered in the background, and a few references here and there, because it's not like, hey, look at this, remember that thing. It's not a nostalgia binge for us. It's look at the things that inspired us to make this one. These are the ones we were thinking of when we had this in mind. And every now and then we put something that is completely non-referential and just think that's a funny thing to put in the background. In one of the recent ones, I put a really obscure background gag in. One of the kids in the face painting tent gets knocked into the tent and smears down the wall. And the resulting smear is the same shape as the makeup gun blurt that Homer makes on the wall in The Simpsons.
I'd say probably quite similar to the face paint print that you made on the halls when you.
I don't remember. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, my bad. I've learned. I haven't put on face paint since, because I found it so itchy and annoying. I don't like doing face paint.
It was an excellent costume, though.
Well, no, actually, I tell a lie. The only other time I've put on face paint was when I got engaged. But that happened to be Halloween night, so.
What was it?
I had a skull. I had like a skull makeup on. My wife wore, at the time, girlfriend, and then a few hours later, fiance. She wanted Day of the Dead style makeup with like flowers and roses around it, and I was a bit more dexterous with the small paintbrush, so I did that for her, and I thought, well, I'll somewhat match you, and I did rough skeleton makeup rather than delicate one, so I just did the top half and things, but I completely forgot this by the time I was down on one knee. It was all so very much a blur. No, I forgot I was wearing it, and then we took a selfie together, and it's like, hey, look, let's get a selfie to remember the moment, and we're both there wearing skeleton makeup, and I go, oh yeah, I forgot it was Halloween. Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice story anyway. So yeah, you've been singing Copacabana by Barry Manilow, so I'm going to play that for you, so you can do it.
My go-to karaoke.
And we'll see you again in a minute and ask some more questions.
Thank you.
Copacabana, Barry Manilow, and Matt does indeed know all the lyrics.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Sorry, forgot to turn your mic up. You know all the lyrics.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. I've had a question in from Stu from the Saturday Show. He'd like to know how you create depth of field in an animation. He's watching Beaster Bunny now and chuckling away.
So, you basically create a vanishing point. So imagine an A4 piece of paper. You put a dot anywhere on the piece of paper. That is your horizon, your final kind of point where the sunset is, where everything streaks out from it. And imagine rays of light coming from it. So you draw lines in a circle coming from that. And through those lines, that creates kind of your different areas where you want to put your objects, and depending on where they are along that object line, you make them smaller or larger. The closer they are, obviously, they become larger, but you got to make sure you're following the lines. Otherwise, if you know, a table's, you know, a little bit to the side or one's looking a bit wonky, you create this kind of weird flat image and it doesn't feel like it's flowing anywhere. So you need to create a flow to a single point to kind of create that. And then once you've got your kind of linear staging for where all your objects are across this scene, as long as you put your characters in the correct placement of that, so you can put them behind objects, in front of objects, as long as you've got them in the right area, in theory, it'll all be fine. You get this lovely depth of field. If you unfortunately only have one eye, depth of field is pretty difficult, so I apologize for that. But yeah, it's pretty difficult anyway, honestly. There's been a lot of revisions on that one, especially regarding perception and depth of field. But
when you watch it, it just looks so. It's just so easy to watch. You can never think how much work goes into it.
Well, everyone looks at it and goes, "Oh, that looks really nice" and everything. I look at it and go, "That's what we messed up. We messed up that, and we messed up that. I wish we could have changed that." There's going to be in the future. There'll be a director's cut, I'm sure, at some point where I'll just kind of obsess over it and change everything.
Yeah. So you've got a short coming up. Not an episode.
No, so we call the episodes Eddisodes because Ed and Eddsworld. But the shorts are just usually non-linear, something that takes less time. We can put something out. It's a nice little way to test out new material. We're using it as an excuse to try new material on new formats. But generally speaking, we're trying to make sure we do more episodes and Eddisodes because those are the ones that people really love. And we've gone very far backwards into Ed's style of doing things, and that's just take a whole bunch of random jokes and sketches that you kind of find funny, mash them all together, and put them in a linear format. And that's kind of what we did. We put a load of jokes together that we found kind of funny, and we tried to get that original style that he was doing with the random things. However, we've since updated it and not had any copyrighted material in it. So, yeah.
When's that expected? Do you know?
We're still working on it at the moment. We would really like it to be in the next 2 weeks, but, you know, that requires me, really knuckling down and getting on with things.
What about, the next episode? Any teasers? Anything to, get people excited about it?
It's beach themed. And because we went on an unforced hiatus between Easter and now, we got a bit miserable about things and basically couldn't work for a little bit. And now we're back on it. It was meant to be summer themed, so it's going to probably be an end of September or October at this rate.
A late
but
summer.
it's beach themed. And the only thing is if we'd had it done and we were on schedule and it was out this week, which I think it was meant to be around this time when we actually scheduled it, it would be perfect to go with the heat wave because that's how it starts. We start with this horrific heat wave and then melting in their apartment building, as I think everyone has been the last week or so, or longer. It's a bit of a blur, honestly. And this forces them to finally get out there and try and do something cool and relaxing. But no such luck, as a whole bunch of beach bullies ruin their fun.
Oh, no.
And there may or may not be a giant sea monster.
I'm excited. I'll be keeping an eye on my YouTube. Can you give us some of the websites and bits and pieces?
Yes. So our Instagram is @Eddsworld. Our Twitter is @Eddsworld. Our Facebook is /Eddsworld. And
easy.
Our website is eddsworld.co.uk, not .com, because someone parked it many years ago and is being very mean about it.
Darn them.
Yeah. So .co.uk, because we're a British web series. And we also do comics as well, which are really fun. I think making comics is a little harder though, because you're trying to condense a joke into, 3 or 4 panels, whereas you can actually stretch out a joke for the usual comedic beats like da 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 da. But comics, you gotta know what's going on pretty fast. And there's been a lot where we made very clear mistakes and go, I don't get it. And we all will sit there and go, I still don't get it. I think it's funny. Is it funny? Just release it. It's fine.
They're all pretty good. They're all very, very pun heavy, which I enjoy. I love the puns.
I think that's the problem though. I think we're going to run out of puns.
You never run out of puns. Thank you for coming in to talk to us and telling us all about this. I'm excited. I'm going to be keeping an eye on YouTube. You can see it on YouTube and Newgrounds.
Yes, Newgrounds, youtube.com/Eddsworld. Newgrounds.com/Eddsworld.
Yes.
Newgrounds is where we started, and YouTube is where we're trying to stay up and be cool and hip. We're not on TikTok. We've got the name, but we don't use it because we're not cool and young, and we haven't worked out how to use it properly because
it is difficult.
TikTok's it's this whole thing, and I think it's very difficult for animation to work on TikTok. We could probably just put clips there, I guess.
Yeah.
But people wouldn't like that. They'd be like, it's just from the thing. We want original stuff.
Yeah.
But no.
But I should point out it's Ed with 2 Ds, by the way. Yes. So
is there any other way of doing it? I mean, who on earth would spell their name with 1 D, apart from the guy that we recently recast as Tom, which makes it very confusing because when we're talking about Ed, they think we're talking about Ed. So we now have to go by surnames to make it easier.
Is it kind of a who's on first situation?
Yes, it's exactly that. It's very Albert and Costello.
Sorry, I've let the break not go on, so I'm going to put the break on, and then after that we'll have another song. Sorry, I got too caught up in talking. Yes, thanks, Matt.
Sunday Brunch with Cassie Beckley.
Maidstone Radio.